different things to say or do or strategies. So I like to give you guys a chance to ask your questions, like what you've been told to do, things like that. And like I said, I certainly have my list of important things. But what are some ones that you've been told or heard?
What you just said, distract them on the case of somebody gonna shoot you. Most of the time, they don't know how to use the gun well enough, and you've got a chance to just turn around and run away. Chance and zigzag as you go that, because chances are they're not a good enough shot to hit you anyway.
Yeah. So as it's probably, and you're going to find, here's what I like to do. So I'll take this case and I'll talk more broadly about bigger concepts. Okay. We all know that we don't go to crime scene B. Does everybody know that? The secondary location, right? Whatever they plan to do to you when they have more control and in a more isolated environment, if they want you under more control and more isolated, that is never in your best interest. Agreed? Agreed. Right? Okay, so if you go there, you are like 99.9% chance dead, right? If you go there. I did work with a lady in Louisville who got out of one of those situations. And I mean, it was by the grace of God that she was in a barn and ran out and was able to, deserted road, but maybe 5 cars go down that road a day. But it happened that one car was driving by, and they were willing to stop and help her, right? I mean, this was, the hand of God the entire way that she got away, right? We're not going to rely on that. We don't get in that car. So to your point, right? What do I do if someone pulls a gun or whatever else? Statistics, are very unlikely to get hit. Okay? A moving target, most people can't. Even bad guys who have the jump on the prey, it's hard. And then B, it's really hard to die from gunshot wounds. People are really good at plugging holes now, right? And again, if we do the stress shooting class, we talk about some mind setting that goes with that if you do a shot. But generally speaking, you have a very good chance of living, right? And if you do the math percentage of getting shot and then the percentage of those that live, it's like 80% if you get to the hospital, like you have an 80% chance of living or something like that. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, right? But you do the math and it's probably like a 3 to 5% chance of you actually dying from that, where if you go with them, you're dead, right? So yes, someone, and if it's an armed robbery even, right? And people go, do you throw the wallet away or whatever else, or throw it and run, or, or whatever. Throw the wallet up and then crescent kick the gun out of their hand while they're looking at it, right? Walker does that. Texas Ranger does that, but no, right? I'm of the opinion, throw it don't piss them off and throw it in a gutter, right? But hand them to them and then bolt. And here's my opinion on that, okay? If they just wanted your wallet, then they don't care what you do. If they were going to shoot you, now you have a head start and you're a running target, right? Okay. If they're going to shoot you anyway, now you have a head start. So I would agree. If you can remember to serpentine, great. I think I'm just going to worry about, I'm not going to worry about serpentining or whatever else, right? And we could talk a little more about, for example, we talked about we run to safety. We don't run away from things. Running away from things is how we run into traffic and get hit by a truck, right? Versus I got to get someplace behind cover or concealment or whatever else. We got to be running to something. But yeah, I'm of the opinion, basically, if you have the opportunity, chuck it and run, right? And don't, someone pulls a gun, says get in the car, run, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, anything else?
I have a little great grandson. He's 7 years old. When Tiny was 4, I have taught him that if somebody tries to take him, that he is to yell, kick, scream, and holler because they do not want attention brought to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I keep going over that with him over and up until 7.
So we play. So in our Little Dragons class, we play the opposite game, right? So it kind of goes back to whatever they want you to do is not in their best interest. So they tell you to be quiet, you be louder. They tell you to sit still, you tell them to squirm. We make a game out. We play the opposite game, right? So that's not bad advice at all. Okay, it's about control, right? And this is a little more morbid example, but like, you know how many people, I'm going to say how many people, but there are many cases in like home invasion where like the dad goes and gets the duct tape, finds the duct tape for the guy to get taped up so that then they can brutalize the rest of his family as he watches as he's duct taped up, right? But they had the threat of harming them. He gave them more control, right? He literally, did that. So you can't help them get more control, right? But that's sometimes a tough situation. But anyway, I already said it. What about who's heard? Act like you're talking on your cell phone. No one? Okay. You've heard it? Okay. Usually in my self-defense class, about half the people, who's heard don't talk on your cell phone?
When you're walking down the street.
Yeah, like if you're walking down the street, act like you're talking on your cell phone, so like you're whatever. And again, half people women have been told to talk on their cell phone. Other half, so here's my take on it, okay? If I took you to the mall or, to the fair, okay, and said, all right, we're gonna be criminals today. You pick who you would attack.
Distracted on the cell phone.
The person that's distracted, and that probably means those in a phone. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right? I would argue that gets you selected as a target a whole lot easier than it does. Besides, who are you talking to?
What are they gonna do?
Well, yeah, right? Let's say you're talking to dispatch, right? You've dialed 911 already, right? You're talking dispatch. How long before they get somebody there? National average is 7 minutes.
It's like 6 minutes, I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Campus, like I use like 3 to 5. That's damn good. That's damn good. But still, they're not gonna get you don't think you're gonna be in the back of that van in 2 minutes.
It's a long time.
Okay? So unless you're walking, next person is 6'4", wearing blue shirt. You're trying to identify everybody you walk by or whatever else. No, I'm not, right? So right? I had a girl make a very important point one time though, when we talked about that. And she said, but I feel better when there's someone on the other line. It's a very astute observation. So I make this genre, right? I call it comfort advice, right? There are things that we might do that actually might make us feel better. They really don't help. They might actually hurt us, but they make us feel better. I'm talking to my mom, I feel safe, right? I'm not knocking the buddy system, right? But everybody been in that group of people where you're all talking and all of a sudden there's like someone in the middle and you're like, no one knows who that is, and everybody, the crowd just gets awkwardly quiet, like who's this and where'd they come from? And they're just trying to like get through your obnoxious group, right? And go on there. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, right? And again, I'm not knocking the buddy system, but everybody who basically it assumes I'm safe because I'm in a group, but everybody is thinking that and no one is paying attention, right? I tell this story a lot. I was in Boston a long time ago, one of the martial arts thing. I had a couple people with me or whatever, and we were in Back Bay, a lot of boutique shops, window shopping, whatever, right? And I'm walking, and the ladies were with us, and person or whatever, and this guy's just loitering up here. And when we walk by, he falls in behind us. Now maybe he decided he had someplace to be, whatever else. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, let's see. So I'm like, okay, next shop, I'm going to stop and see what happened, right? So I turn. And I wheel up and I look at this window and it's like some macrame bikini thing. I had no business looking at whatever it was I was looking at, right? And everybody's like, and I'm like, what are you looking at? I'm like, I caught out of the sort of corner of my eye, I thought it was something. Like, what did you think it was? And I'm like, I just thought, I'm like, seriously, I'm like, nothing, all right? Okay, but, right? But basically he had to find something else to look at a couple of streets up or a couple blocks up too, right? A couple stores up, I should say, not blocks, right? And so he stops. Right, we start walking. Next thing you know, he comes right behind us again. Right, so I turn around. I'm looking at my group. I'm walking back. I'm like, "Hey," I'm like, "Where do we want to eat? There's a Thai place around the corner." Blah blah blah. But I'm staring at him. Right, I'm like, "We're having meaningful dialogue here." Okay, and I know what's up. You dialed the wrong number. Go someplace else. He smirked at me. Went straight. We went around the corner. No one else knew until appetizers. Okay, someone has to have paid attention. my family went to Europe, and we were in one of the tours. I mean, we were the most obnoxious. I mean, 80% of the group had fanny packs, right? I mean, it was bad. It was real bad, okay? And we were part of Paris. Paris has a big pickpocket problem, at least when I was there. I suspect still does, right? Okay, right? And I mean, we were obnoxious tourists, right? So we're getting on this gondola. I can't even remember where we were going. Couldn't pronounce it even if I did, right? But so we're getting in this gondola, and it's our whole crowd, and we're obnoxious. Hey, get out of there, everybody over here, blah blah blah. Like taking pictures, stop taking pictures. We gotta get in the gondola, whatever else. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed because I'm a young adult or whatever. But so we get in, and there's this one guy who manages to get right in the middle of all of us. And there's no reason any other French person would want to be in this gondola like this with our group, right? Okay, so everybody else is staring out here and everything else. And of course, it's very shoulder to shoulder. Everybody else is staring outwards except for me. And I'm literally like this, just staring right into his face, facing inward, staring like right at him, right? And I'm like, you are not doing anything right now, okay? And didn't say anything. Right? Just didn't look outward, just kind of looked right through him and just stared at him, and he's getting really nervous, right? And everything else, right? Someone's got to be the one who pays attention, okay? But again, there's a lot of times, that again, we feel a false sense of security, or we do things that, again, really don't help, maybe even hurt, right? So we got to be careful of those types of things, okay? Others? Yes, sir.
Eye contact with a stalker, potentially opening up, dialogue, like, hey, what are you looking at?
Yeah. So again, this is something we talk about fast a lot. There's a difference between, what are you looking at, buddy? Look, and how you doing? Look, and just I see you, don't scare me. Moving on. Hey, what's up? Right? Well, actually, right? Frankie's son Brenner is traveling now, and she just told me this story last night that she just talked to him, and they kind of, he's clearly by himself traveling, right? And so he just kind of did the little nod, to someone else, made eye contact, and that way, just everything that this guy's crazy. This guy, it wasn't your normal interaction. Something was up there, right? And so he's like, he went in the store. He stayed in the store way longer than he needed to stay in the store, but he's giving this guy a chance to leave, right? Because, he's, but just being aware, right, of, that interaction instead of being oblivious to the fact when you walk back out and walk by him again, you didn't notice and stuff like that. So we'll talk more about that this afternoon even as far as that. But yes, eye contact is super important. You hear sometimes, don't make eye contact. Part of that goes back to cultures are different. Right? I'm told, like you stare at a Mexican police officer, that's a challenge, that's going to get a beat down, right, if you make eye contact. I don't know. I've never been in that situation with a corrupt Mexican police officer. I don't know, right? But it is important that you understand the rules of your particular, again, culture or subculture, right? And so that is worth noting, but generally speaking, right, eye contact is super important. Because predator-prey relationship, eye contact suggests that you're going to be a handful. It goes back to the deterrence, right? I'm confident people more likely to fight, more likely to report the incident after the fact, both of which predator doesn't want. Okay, so eye contact is super important. But yes, there's different ways to do it. And if we make it too antagonistic, we're escalating the situation and everything else. So, but yeah, I think it's important. It's worth doing. Right, for sure. Any others? Okay, a couple of real quick ones that I want to hit on, okay? And this is more specific to sexual assault, but I think the genre can be more broad, okay? And that is, anybody heard, if you're in a sexual assault situation, say things like, tell them you have AIDS? Anybody heard that one? See, we're dating ourselves.
Yeah, right.
The kids nowadays, like back in the day, I've been doing this a long time. Back in the day, 75% of the class would raise their hand. Now, maybe one, right? Okay. fake a seizure. Anybody heard that? Pee on yourself, right? Stuff like that. Okay. Sometimes tell them, stop it, you're raping me. Okay? Goes back to what we talked about before, but okay. So here's the thing, okay? First of all, again, Predator probably assumed some token resistance, like, back in the day, right? They interviewed the Predators, and, they're like, I know they're going to tell me I have AIDS. I don't believe them, right? But that's another story, right? But here's my bigger point. This is my bigger genre, okay? If I were with a woman and she started having a seizure, I would be concerned. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Right? If I were with a woman and she said, stop it, you're raping me. Whoa, hold on, wait a minute. I thought, what? Problem is, not a rapist. Okay? Again, going back to the seizure, this is overly crass, but it's really important to convey this concept. Okay? They have a seizure. Okay? Call 911, put them in the recovery position if they'll let you, right? Or whatever else. And, oh my gosh, are you okay? Predator, it'll be easier when she's limp. I know that's crass, right? But this is the important thing. There's a lot of advice out there that sounds really good to other good people. I call it good person to good person advice. Look at him in the eye and tell him you're raping me. That's rape. Stop it, you're raping me. Oh, I'll get you right here. That's powerful words. Again, they don't see it that way. Or you're a slinky, right? Sounds great to other good people, but we are not dealing with good people, right? And you got to make that distinction. Okay, there's a lot of advice out there that sounds really good to other good people, but doesn't do very much. Doesn't amount to a hill of beans when we're talking about someone with a very different opinion. What's the phrase, right? It's no good for the sheep to espouse the diet of grass when the wolves are of a different mind, right? So anyways, that's a big one, okay? Who's heard yell fire instead of rape? A couple people. If you don't know the idea, rape, it goes kind of back to this bystander thing, but rape is this intimate thing. People don't want to get involved, right? It can be, it should be more clear cut than some people make it. Let's make that clear. But, right, people kind of don't want to get involved. There was a study done, you yell fire, people more willing to come be a hero when it comes to fire, right? So, girl behind the bushes yell fire, oh, are you guys okay? Right? Rape, whoa, I don't know if I want to get involved, right? Here's the thing, okay? Right? The problem with a lot of advice is there's, it's kind of the question of a lot of advice question of a lot of research is whether it has external validity, right? That's the question in research, right? And the same thing here. You take all the variables away, rape versus fire. A lot of those studies don't take into account one other important variable, and that is the bad guy. When you start yelling rape or fire, what do you think he's going to do?
Put his hand over your mouth?
Yeah, he's going to hit the mute button, right? Really quick, okay? Now, I'm not saying don't yell, right? Because it is very important, again, it's part of our overall resistance, and like you were saying, again, we want to just make it a handful, make it problematic and stuff like that, right? But there's a lot of people that rely on advice that, again, maybe does not have the same external validity, right? In terms of when you put an actual bad guy there, okay? And there's a lot of there's a lot of advice out there with that, right? And that goes back to a lot of the bystander intervention stuff, right? When you take it out of that very small context, what's really going to happen and stuff like that too, okay? Any others? Okay. Last one that I like to, there's a couple more, but the one that I really want to stress is you still have to live your life, right? And we can be smart and we can do some mental preparation and everything else, but, there are emails out there. You might get the email like, Rapists like ponytails because it's easy to grab their hair. You might get that email. It circles around Facebook or the interweb every couple of years, right? It's, there's a lot of them out there. I joke that sometimes some of these are written by rapists for counterintelligence purposes to make their life easier, right? Right? So, because I can't grab you guys' hair because it's not in a ponytail, right? Now, if you're really worried about that, right, someone grabbing your hair and using it against you, then shave your head. That's what my prison guard buddies do, right? High and tight for a reason, man. That's a real job. I mean, that's a real occupational hazard for them, right? I presume you don't like the Sinead O'Connor look. Again, dating myself to some of us in the room, right? Okay, on that one. Okay, right? Okay, but I presume you like your hairstyle more than that, right? So, I mean, come on, right? We have to live our lives, right? And, there's the whole walk up, anybody heard carry your, if you're going to somewhere fancy, you got to have your heels on or whatever. You wear tennis shoes and carry your heels and change when you get there. So if you have to run, right, you're not trying, anybody? Well, yeah, I know. Some of you guys not a problem, right? Okay. Now, again, I don't have much experience in that either, right? But I got to think, right, that's a little problematic to, how do you put your sneakers in your clutch? Right, when you get there, I don't know how that works, okay? I don't know if they go and coat check. Can you coat check smelly pair of shoes? I don't know, right? When you get to the Met or whatever, I don't know how that works, right? It's okay advice. I mean, but I mean, you got to balance this stuff you got to balance this stuff a little bit, right? And so again, there's some paranoia. There's a lot of, anybody heard check under your car? Right? Because there could be someone going to slice your ankle, right, when you get out of your car. This is completely anecdotal, right? I don't know, right? I don't have any real numbers on this, but I would be willing to bet you there have been more women abducted by someone coming up behind them while they were looking underneath their car than there has actually been anybody under their car. Okay? I don't know. This has become one of these urban legends or whatever else, right? So again, we have to kind of keep things in perspective a little bit. Maybe pay a weird van sitting right beside your car late at night. Yeah, okay, yeah, right? That's a little different, right? Better safe than sorry, everything else. I'm not going to knock some of these things, right? But there's a lot of things that people kind of go, we have to still live our lives, right? And we have to find a balance, right? And part of that, right, is keeping that thing in perspective, and this is a little different, is, a lot of people why you carry a gun when big guys, morbidly obese, whatever else, carry a gun and why you carry a gun? Protect my family. You're 100 pounds overweight and you have no life insurance. What's going to really get your family? Right? And you eat 6 donuts a day, right? Don't tell me you're worried about, well, okay, that last part can maybe be okay, right? So, right? Not every day, right? But some, right? Okay, let's go back. Let me back up on that part. That's a little self-incriminating. But, right, my point is, right? I mean, again, we got to keep that in perspective. What's really going to get us here, right? I mean, again, we can't worry about the boogeyman and forget about all the other aspects of our life that are important too and everything else, and we want to keep this in perspective, right? And that's part of personal protection, right, in my book. If you don't have some type of ID protection right now, identity theft protection, right, LifeLock or, Xander or one of those that you hear all on the radio all the time, I don't know why. I mean, that's crazy to me, right, that you don't have something like that nowadays, right, as bad as that is.
Well, some people can't afford that.
It's like $10 a month.
Well, I told 50.
Yeah. So mine's like $12 a month for my family.
Well, mine was hacked already twice, and it threw medical records.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, right? So it's a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that's worth it to me.
Oh, no,
right?
They put it on there for 2 years.
Good.
So it doesn't cost me anything.
So like I said, I'm saying, like I said, again, I don't. Again, we want to keep this in perspective, right? We worry about the boogeyman underneath the car and everything else. We have to live our lives. You have to be out after dusk. You have to do these things. But I do hope that this is giving you a launching pad to think through some things. You're always, well, most of you know where to find me. I can give you a card. But you got ideas, you got always, what do you think of this? I got an opinion, right? You don't always have to share it, but it's important that you kind of start thinking through some things. Like I said, be a little more savvy consumer to some of that advice that is out there, right? Does that make sense? Is that really good advice, or is that going to, right? Look at all the things I'm going to carry in my purse, right? In case I need it, okay? Having said that,
Just use your purse.
yeah, well, right? But, tactical pin in your purse might not be a bad thing just in case, right? But again, we gotta find that balance a little bit, right? And again, just if there are holes, I better brush up on my legalities or whatever else. I encourage you to do that. Yes.
I think this goes to a lot of women. I think they need to listen to when the hair is curling on their neck and when they get the goosebumps or when things just don't feel right. Their own instincts instead of blowing it on.
Yes, absolutely. And again, that's something we talk about intuition in our fast class a lot, right? There is something very true. The Gift of Fear really articulates on intuition. This is the book to learn about and what intuition really means there. And others expound on it, but this one really is really one of the seminal works in that regard. And it's very important. But I will say this too. Sometimes it's a little, how to put it? Trust your instincts, better safe than sorry, can't argue with, okay? Sometimes you've also heard it couched within, it's usually couched in the whole fight or flight response, right? Especially for ladies. I'm going to be a little flippant with this, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You're all Xena warrior princess inside. It's been oppressed for millions of years by men, but get in touch with your animal instinct. Rosie Riveter, you can do it, roar. You know what I'm talking about, right? And again, usually it's couched in that fight or flight animal instinct, right? Get in touch with your animals and you can do it. You're a really strong, rawr type thing, right? Okay. So, again, I'm really, and fight or flight, and this is true for guys too, right? Fight or flight is great if you're attacked by a dog. For fight or flight is an interspecies interaction, okay? When you're talking about intraspecies interaction, we're talking about two other important dynamics, and that is posture and submission. Think about Animal Planet. Two animals butt their heads, right? There's a lot of this going on, and then ultimately one tucks their tail, bows its head, whatever else. What are we talking about? That's what we're talking about, right? Okay, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about deterrence. We're talking about posturing, eye contact, all that, right? That's what we're talking about, okay? So my point is this. Absolutely, yes, listen and all that and that type of stuff for sure. But when some situations, right, it's kind of like it goes back to the whole mental processing. Someone pulls a gun and says, get in the car. Is your instinct to run away? Sometimes not, right? Sometimes some things are counter-instinctual until we kind of think bigger picture, right? Okay? You're getting punched in the face. You lay there, it'll stop. Is your instinct to keep getting fight back? Some people's not, okay? Unless they understand the bigger picture. If I do submit, what's that going to be long-term? What's that mean long-term for me? When you put it like that, it's a no-brainer. But if you haven't thought through some of these things, sometimes it goes against the obvious instinct, okay? So that is important. But yeah, I don't want to discount that at all. Absolutely.
Be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah. So, all right, well, thank you for your time. I will see some of you in an hour down the road. The rest of you, thanks again. And again, anytime you want to reach out, any other advice, whatever, I have opinions. Thanks.